Today, International Market Centers and Design on High Point presents The House That Diversity Built. We have a group of very diverse designers with us, and we also have Good Housekeeping, who is our partner for this, and Monique Valeris, the senior editor for Home with Good Housekeeping, is our moderator. As a reminder, if you would like more information about our upcoming webinars, open showrooms, digital resources that we have available, and more about High Point Market itself, which starts next week, October 13th, and runs through the 21st, you can visit our website at imchighpointmarket.com. This is CEU accredited, and anybody who is joining us through Zoom, you can receive that information and it will be emailed out to you later. We will have a question and answer time available, so if you have questions for any of our designers, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A, and we'll get to it towards the end. So at this time, Monique, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks for the introduction, Kimberly. As Kimberly mentioned, I'm Monique Valeris, the Senior Home Editor at Good Housekeeping. And at Good Housekeeping, I oversee all things home decor for both print and digital. So today's session is right up my alley, and I'm so excited to chat about the House That Diversity Built, a virtual show house that several talented designers worked on. David Santiago, Byron Risdon, Breegan Jane, Alberto Bobang, Don Ricardo Massenberg, and Erica Taylor. So we're going to begin by, hi there, thanks for joining us. We're going to begin by running through a presentation that shows off each of their rooms in the virtual show house. And after that point, we'll regroup and just ask our designers here some questions to get a better sense of their aesthetic and the overall design approach for each of their spaces. And then if there are any questions from the chat room, we're happy to answer those. So Kim, I'll let you go ahead and begin with our presentation. Let's go into our introduction so everyone can get a sense of our designers' backgrounds. Let's start with David Santiago. Please tell us a bit about yourself and your decorating approach, where you're based.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm David Santiago from the New York, New Jersey metro area. My business is Casa Santia Interior Design. I am an interior and product designer at this phase in my career, and I'm having a ball doing it. I've ventured into product design about a year and a half ago with wall coverings, crossing over into hospitality as well as lighting, carrying me into hospitality. So I've anointed it as a hospidential type of concept where we marry both worlds. And it's a new, interesting time for interior design, especially in the hospitality world. They're just embracing mixing and crossing over different styles. But more importantly, but what I do is a full service interior design company. That's what I do. That's the core of my business, and wear many hats. I do general construction, renovations. I do consultation, hourly consultations. It's really a well-rounded business that I provide here in my area as well as nationwide. And it's an honor and privilege to be amongst my distinguished colleagues and peers, and here with you, Monique.
Thanks for being here. And I have to say, I was looking at your bio, and I love that you're known as the Prince of Wallpaper, if I'm not mistaken. That's the best title ever.
Yeah, you know, it's an ode to the Prince of Chintz, Mario Buoto, and one of my, mentors from back in the day. And I just have this affinity for wallpaper, and I chose to take it on as I must have wallpaper on every job. No one will say no to me. And I utilize in fun, unexpected ways and traditional ways for walls, but ceilings, bookcases, on furniture. It's really a wonderful way to really amp it up and bring another element of design. So yeah, I love wallpaper, and I'm the Prince.
I do too. That's awesome. Let's move on to Byron Risdon. Welcome, and please tell us a bit about your background.
Hi, I'm Byron Risdon of Byron Risdon LLC, located in Washington, D.C. I started in this business about 13 years ago in New York City, And 4 years ago, I started my own firm, and I've been at it ever since. I don't know. I don't think I have like a particular aesthetic. I do whatever. I marry my experience and my style with whatever my clients are looking for. So I really like to consider myself to be wide ranging in my ability and scope of work. So.
Thanks for sharing, Byron. And Bregan Jane, can't wait to hear about your background. I know we've connected in the past for different projects.
Yes.
Please tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you for having me today. This is such a beautiful panel, so I want to say that first and foremost. And this is such a fun group of people with so many distinct styles. I also, like Byron, try to put my clients first, but I think I'm known for modern, approachable luxury. So I like a hint of gold, but I like things to be clean line and muted so that the mind can relax. So that's kind of what we call it. I have a firm in Los Angeles, specifically Santa Monica, but we just rolled out a Zoom package. So that's been really interesting expansion of our brand this year, and continuing to just put everything else I've learned across the last like 10 years to be more approachable to our audience. I'm finding right now that as we're all stuck at home, everyone is leaning on us as an industry and as individuals because home matters more than ever. So I've been putting a lot of effort this year into really making the tips and tricks I learned attainable to everyone.
That's awesome. You're right. Home is so important right now. And I can't wait for everyone to see this fabulous kitchen that you designed. Thanks for
Kitchen's
sharing.
the heart of the home. It's one of my favorite spaces. But yeah, it's fun to push edges, but keep things in a way that feels like a place you can relax. I think everyone is realizing how much our spaces really seep into our psyche. And I am grateful that we are all positioned to give forth all of our learning and understanding right now in this moment.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing.
There we go.
Perfect.
Hi, I'm Albie of Albie Knows. I am a self-taught interior designer. I actually made the pivot from virtual merchandising to interior design about 4 years ago. And that's after going to school for architecture, so kind of a full circle moment. I recently made a decision that I like speaking to people about design in a whole versus the one-on-one. So now I focus mostly on content creation, working with brands so that I can reach a larger group of people because I couldn't, even though I wanted that, I love the personal touch of interior design, I couldn't commit to any one client at any moment. I am an all-around idea machine. That's how I like to think of myself. So anything from writing to designing to podcasting, anything that has to do with technology, that is my jam. So this was absolutely something I'm super excited about because I get to marry my love of design and creating with this virtual new reality that we're all living in, which is practically my entire reality. As just a military spouse, we never know where we're gonna be. So I've gotten accustomed to doing things online. So I welcomed the rest of the world when everything kind of came to a halt. So I'm really excited just to be here sharing this space with all of you. And hopefully we can have an amazing conversation about the house that diversity built.
Thanks for joining us. Let's move on to Don Ricardo Massenberg. Please tell us a bit about yourself before we begin.
Well, my name is Don Ricardo. As you said, I am in Durham, North Carolina. So I own Design Incredible LLC, where we do residential and commercial interiors, and I love everything design. I would say I'm a textile guy. So, you know, tile and flooring, they just don't make me scream. But if you throw me in a fabric store, rugs, wallpaper, I'm in it. So that's my thing. A friend of mine recently said, I'm going to call you the Throw Whisperer. And so I said, I'll take it. So I just love lush fabrics and textiles. I'm really thankful for this opportunity. And it's just been really awesome just seeing how innovative and creative that we can be during this time to pull some of these things off. So I'm just excited to be a part of this, and I can't wait to see what you guys have done.
Thanks for sharing, and we're gonna see that fabulous home office that you dreamed up, so stay tuned. Erica Taylor, let's move on to you and just have you share a bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Erica Taylor. I'm a Philly-based interior design company, and I'm fairly new to the design world. I've only had my business for about a few years now. My love is black, white, and wood. So if you ever see a space that doesn't incorporate that, I wasn't a part of it. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and that's about it.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And we have finally Niall Johnson. Do you want to give us a bit about your background quickly before we jump into our Q&A portion?
Sure. Sorry I'm late. The technology gremlins weren't
no problem.
But I'm Niall. I am an interior designer. I'm outside of Philadelphia, like in the west suburbs of Philly. I do residential and commercial design. I'm a dad of 2 girls, and that's really pretty much it.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and begin. Before we talk about the show house, I just have to ask, because many of us are still in quarantine, I'm just curious as to how you've been making your homes more comfortable during this time. I mean, everybody's looking to outfit home offices. People have been organizing, spending lots more time in the kitchen. So I'm just curious to hear what's been getting you through this challenging time. Let's start with David.
Well, I have implemented a small little home office in my living space. My dining room was always my multi-purpose room. I have a great dining room table from Bernhard where I get to sprawl everything out with my samples. And during this time, I found myself wanting actually a designated area for the computer and take it away from the dining space. So my living space, which is across the room here, and I'm in the dining room now, has become multi-purpose in different ways, where the dining room, I'm actually enjoying meals, and it's not covered with all of my fabric samples and wallpapers and, wood samples. And that's all designated to a specific area, work-related. So that's the newest thing in my world, in my immediate space that I've been celebrating about. And also adding string lights to the living room for a festive atmosphere. We're spending a lot of time here, and I really want to be stimulated with eye candy. And I love color, lighting, and natural plants. I have a lot of natural plants here, and it feels very organic, as colorful as a tropical area. So that's how I'm celebrating having to stay at home more than so.
I love it. Color, plants, string lights. I mean, you can't go wrong.
You really can't. Every time I turn them on, and whether I'm watching the news or just sitting, having dinner, it's a little festive moment. And it's in my home. Hello. I mean, that's bliss.
Nothing beats that.
Yeah.
Byron, how have you been getting through quarantine? What have you been doing at home as far as refreshing your space?
A lot happened around here during quarantine. So one, I got really busy. Like we talked about earlier, I got really busy like in May, and things just like took off. And similar to David, I use my dining table all the time to work, to spread out. And I had a guest bedroom with the bed and the whole setup, and so I spread out fabrics and rugs and everything on the bed when I needed. And then just one day, it was so many things. I was like, this is inefficient. This is not going to work. I completely cleared out the room. I now have a fully functional like home office in there with 2 workspaces and a work table and shelving. Like it got a total complete reno in that room. And then in addition to that, I decided that I wanted to photograph my apartment. So a lot of things also happened here. New lighting, new rugs, and reupholstery, and I mean a lot of stuff happened around here. So during the quarantine, because also, I mean, like my clients, I'm sitting here all day and it's like, you should really take care of some of these things that you've been saying, I'm going to deal with that later. You know, if I'm working on everyone else's home and I never do mine, it's like, you should really, it's time to do that. And so
I'm glad that you made that time. That's amazing.
I squeezed it in there somehow with everything else that was going on, but I definitely made it happen.
Well, I'm impressed. Regan, give us a bit of background on what you've been doing at home and how you've been getting through this challenging time.
I can relate to everyone. David, you were talking about plants, and I was like, plants. So I think what's interesting is our idea of office is just gone, you know, and our idea of home and what its use is has completely changed, and creativity is just seeping in everywhere. But my office, when we all got shut down originally, had some beautiful plants in it, and I had to bring the babies home and take care of them. It is not my forte. I am known for recommending mixing fake plants with real plants. It's a great way for those of you who might not be the best plant owners, but having that greenery in my space really helped me connect back to earth, I think, in a way that I really needed this year. So I have really been like Hilton Cartering up my house with greenery and plants because it makes me feel a sense of peace and connected to the earth. So that's definitely a big change for me. I have 2 kids I can keep alive. Plants has been a newfound motherhood.
I want to know, how do you find the right faux plant? Because I mean, I've shopped online and some of them just aren't realistic and it drives me crazy.
So easiest trick I say is pick a plant that looks fake when it's real. So anything that's got like a really waxy leaf or fiddle leaf figs tend to look really good if they're fake, because even in the real version, they have that almost faux feel to them. So when you add them in as a faux plant, people can't really tell. It's a little bit harder with something like a palm that's a little bit furrier or softer. But yeah, think about what plants look fake in real life.
That's great advice. I'm going to use that. Albie, our digital whiz, I want to hear what you've been doing at home right now. How have you been upgrading your space, if at all?
So I was already used to working from home, but last year I've gotten rid of my home office and kind of downsized and then realized, oh, I need it again. So I decided to redo our living room and dining area. We weren't really eating in the dining area, so I was converting that to a study because it just became this drop zone of packages and bills and work anyway. So I decided to actually be more intentional about it and redo the living room so that even when we're doing a little bit of work in there, it still felt more functional, like with storage and just more beautiful things around me. These were probably the only 2 areas that I had never touched in our apartment, just as a renter, because there were just so many challenges that I couldn't change. So that was really kind of my focus, you know, incorporating more lighting because I'm spending more time doing everything here. Better storage, pulling out my larger desk. But then we decided to move. Well, not decided, we had to move. So now everything has gotten undone. So this is probably the cleanest corner of our entire apartment, surrounded by boxes. So in that brief moment, that was kind of my inspiration of really just being more intentional, as opposed to focusing on, oh, is it pretty, but just how am I really using this? But now I'm taking it all apart. So
wow.
that's
you'll get it done, Albie. You'll get it done.
I mean, now I have more space where we're going, so that'll be exciting to do it all over again. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that though.
That's awesome. And Dawn, I can't wait to hear what you've been doing at home.
So this time has been like the only time that I ever have a chance to do anything at home. So I've always heard, oh, you're an interior designer, I know your house must be amazing. And I'm like, I never have time to do anything to my own space.
Yeah.
I have so many ideas and so many pieces, but I started out as an upholsterer. So I actually made a headboard May. And so I actually redid my bedroom here. Used some of my favorite wallpaper patterns and bedding. And so it was awesome just to be able to have the chance to do that. And so it's been great. I have always worked from home, so my office was always set up And so I'm going to move to my dining room next and see how it goes.
That's exciting. You're getting it all done right now.
And just being able to do it at my own pace. Nobody's calling saying, when will it be done? Or
yeah,
this piece come in, you know, I know that it wasn't coming in because I was making it. So
you can take your time with it. That's so good.
For sure.
That's amazing. Erica, give us a sense of what you've been doing around your home during this time.
Well, I've actually struggled quite a bit because I'm actually one of those designers who doesn't have the time and energy to commit to focusing on her own home. And it's been even more challenging since my boys have been home pretty much since March. So trying to make sure that they have a space to finish out the last school year, and then they didn't have camp and then start school all over again, that's been difficult too. So, and we're in the middle of a renovation, which is another reason why I've not been able to focus as much as I'd like to, because I'm just waiting for things to finish so that I can go ahead and give my home some TLC.
Wow, well, best of luck with the renovation. I know that's not easy.
No, thank you.
Hang in there. And finally, Niall, give us a rundown of what you've been tackling at home.
Much like everybody else, you know, I've sort of taken inventory of what needed to be done around here. And I initially had this laundry list of things and then realized that, much like I tell my clients, we sort of got to focus. And so I had to focus myself and say, start with one room and then go to the next and then to the next. So I've been starting with room by room. I've always worked from home, so that part of it wasn't foreign to me. We already had processes in place that, because we work with clients all over, that kept us digital. So it actually, there wasn't much of a transition there. It was just getting used to everybody else being home with me. So aside from paying attention to my own home, I started had paying attention to my own well-being and drawing the line between work and home, because I find myself in my home office much more because everybody was home, and it was the one place where I could go and get a little solitude and keep my creative juices flowing. You know, I love my girls, but sometimes it's like,
you need that space.
Daddy, one more time. Yeah.
You need the breather. I understand. Exactly. I have two little ones too, so I know what you mean.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. So now we're going to begin by just chatting about your virtual show house designs and what your overall design approach was. David, I'd love to hear about the fabulous dining room that you created. I know it's sheathed in this beautiful tiger patterned wall covering. So just give us a sense of what your approach was.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and share it. I do have it pulled up if you
You
want.
do? Okay, I was wondering if Kim was gonna pull it up, but that is great.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that.
Okay, so you're gonna share your screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll just wait a moment so Dawn can pull up David's dining room design here.
Are you guys seeing the PowerPoint now?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. And then I will scroll down to the fabulous dining area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me go first. I mean, why not, right? Thank you.
Of course.
The premise behind it was literally enjoy your meal. Buen provecho, as we say in Spanish. Cheers, salud. You know, I was starting to think about entertaining again. During these times is one of my things I've missed the most. And I thought, what kind of room would I want to entertain my first dinner party? And this is what happened. This is what I created.
It works.
Yeah, it really did. When I was done with it, I'm smiling because it's a kind of space I want to have drinks and have a great meal and look around table and see family and friends and just have a really fabulous time. And if this could be someone's living space, dining space, or, actual restaurant or something. My goodness, what an experience. So it really started with the wallpaper. Prints of wallpaper, I love going big or go home, and I don't always get to do that because as designers, it's our role to fulfill our clients' needs. And when they don't always say yes to tiger flocked wallpaper, all for
It's
walls.
not for everyone. You have to be bold and daring to do that.
It really isn't, but
It's beautiful.
But what a stimulant it is, and the textural element of the velveteen flock from Tebow, and then on the ceiling we put a reflective covering as well, mica, to give you this subtle luxe luminescence as the chandeliers go on and illuminate the space. The lighting collection is mine, strictly Santi, and I thought of color when I also thought of the space and how to utilize it in a specific way. So, I explored all of my case goods, the dining, the furniture, and one of my go-to brands was Bernhardt. And Bernhardt is really known for their unique subtleties and finishes and luxe and luster. And I thought, if I have a grounded, neutral dining experience with the furnishings, then I can expand on the walls with texture, color, and as well as the floor. So I really kept all of the furnishings neutral, so you have a sense of resolve and relax the eye, as we like to say, give it a rest a little bit so we can focus on each other while having dinner, and then be surrounded by all of this delicious eye candy. From the graphic elements of the palmetto art prints from Prestige to the case goods, again, from Bernhardt, you've got a sense of balance there as well, from scale to graphic element and scale as well, because they're really large overscaled art pieces. And then I just wanted to get a little bit more historical and cultural with some of the Italian or Grecian sculptures from Global Views and the columns. I really wanted to go on a journey. I wanted to travel, whether it was, through the wildlife and the tiger elements of the tiger, to the natural earth elements of mica, to the historical relevance of the statues and the columns. And that's where I went. I wanted an experience. The abstract rug from NURSERY is floor art in itself, creating movement and giving a nice platform to this neutral dining room. And the accents, from Global Views, Chelsea House, and adding the artificial topiaries from Uttermost. We were talking about that. Listen, I used to be a silk floral designer. I am not afraid to bring in the silk artificial plant as well as the real. You can't always sustain a real plant if it doesn't get the proper lighting. So it's just another way of layering. And
it looks great. I mean, the way you've worked with patterns, texture, colors, it's really beautiful.
It is, and pattern and play, but color also. To go with an exuberant pink or a fuchsia type of light fixture in this kind of space, you don't always think of, I'm going to put that in a dining room. I mean, I'd wear it like you're wearing it. We'll all wear it before we put it on a light fixture, but that's what I do. I take the unexpected element and bring it into a space like this. And it's a great way to use color in a unique way, as opposed to in literal way. So I hope you guys got to travel with me, and we all get to sit at this table one day and we say buen provecho and celebrate our diversity in design, cultures, and our walks of life, and end up in the same road which we're here today, which is interior design.
Thank you. And Don, let's move on to the home office that you designed. You have a great way of working with neutrals and texture, and then you've also incorporated some pops of brass. So we'll let you go ahead and pull up your home office space. So tell me about your overall design approach and what you were thinking here.
So I really wanted to create a space that spoke to the times that we're in. And so I've been doing a lot of home offices for guys. I've been doing that and getting some requests for women. And so I really wanted her to have a space to work from home and homeschool the kids and host the Zoom meetings and watch Versus and all of the other things that she's doing in her home office. And so it's, you know, a workspace, there's a lounge area, and I love over the top. So I start with a statement piece, this amazing Global Views chair. I thought was just crazy just to walk in an office and there she is, the boss, you know.
That's a statement. Beautiful.
Yeah, and so, and then the other pieces, neutral, but the mixed materials, there's the brass there, there's some food clay, I just thought it was really important to have the softness, you know. Like I said before, I love textiles, and so there's going to be wallpaper all the way around. Statement lighting here, you see the ceiling. I just thought it was really important for these times that we think about women when we think about offices as well, because you don't get that all the time. So,
and I love how you have, you know, the seating arrangements. I think that's definitely important for an office. Like sometimes you don't want to be at your desk for the duration of the day. So that was really smart.
Yeah, for sure. And then everything is massive, and that's just how I kind of design huge statement pieces. She's got storage back here, but you can't see all of her clutter, which is completely different than I am. But
that's important. Gotta hide the clutter.
Absolutely. So that's where I went with it. A lot of the pieces are Bernhardt Global Views. I'm excited to just go in next week and just see what they have. I'm going to be style spotting a lot of their pieces. So, yeah.
Do you have a favorite item in the space? Was there something that you absolutely had to have? I know you mentioned the chair, but anything else?
So the chair, the Regina Andrew lighting, I just recently used the floor lamp version of this piece in NURSERY. And so I thought it was really awesome. Also, like I said, the massive cabinets, these are a new introduction from Global Views as well. And so hopefully we can get them on order and they will come into production. Also over by the window, this day bed.
Oh, that's beautiful. What a nice touch to put it right there.
Right, with the bolster. And I just think it was awesome because I was able to kind of design the frame of the space. And so the pieces fit perfectly where I wanted them to be. And you know, that never happens when you go in somebody's house, but
I know. Yeah.
But this day bed in this window, and I guess it's in a penthouse. I don't know, we're all in the same house, the show house, but this is a penthouse somewhere in the city. But that's what I was thinking here.
And it's great that you have like substantial like pieces of furniture, but it still manages to feel a bit airy, which is great. And I know that's hard to achieve.
Just the color palette was how that happened, and just staying neutral with just the subtle pops. I did actually present this, just an image of it, to a client who we're doing like the first phase, and it doesn't include her office. And so I kind of showed her this. Whenever you're ready to move to your office, this is an option. And she was like, oh, I love this.
It's amazing.
That we may see it come to fruition. It would be awesome.
Well, job well done.
Yeah. And then as we move, if you guys want me to focus on a particular slide, just let me know and I will.
Sure. We could just stay in the order of the presentation. I believe, is Niall next, the media room? Just so we're not bouncing around. Okay, we can do the kitchen. Bregan. Give us. Hi. We love your assortment of furnishings and accessories that you use for the heart of the home, the kitchen. So just give us a sense of what you were thinking as far as this design scheme.
I would love to, but I also have to shout out Dawn real fast, being like the A+ like classmate right now who did it.
Yes, thank you.
Any day, I will be in a group project with you.
I completely agree. Thank you, Dawn.
Making it all happen. You know, I love a neutral palette as well, and I like to bring in pops of color. I also think that we're entering a world of sourcing sustainably. And so I, of course, like did my little basket pieces handmade in Africa. They are part of the Sustainable Furnishing Council, but I thought it was a great way to talk about bringing diversity into our pieces and having that global element that's always there that David brought in with those beautiful pieces. But that to me is important. Design can tell a story. I also love the piece. You can't really see it, but the that cabinet is an amazing bar cart by Hooker Furniture. And I like that it's such a sophisticated piece, but it doubles as like both a muted, like gorgeous anchor element, but then when it opens up, it's actually like this really cool bar cart that's, you know, functional for your space. I don't know if you guys know Mikhail, but I had to put in his dining table that he did with Yosemite Furniture. I love everything he's doing right now. Le Cornet Fou is my favorite like oven ever. I have a smaller version of this, number 14, in my own personal house. And they are literally handmade with love. Again, adding in that global element of things just made with love and care from people all over the world. It wouldn't be a Brig and Jane complete if we didn't add in an element of gold. You know, we got to add that pop of luxury. So we did that sort of muted and understated here. But for me, I think that that opulence is sort of that thing that makes you stand up a little bit taller, either in your outfit or in your room. So I hope you guys enjoy it. This is a good representation of what I like to do when, you know, I get my own sort of space to just think in my mind, and teal is my favorite color. So there it is, popping in.
It's so beautiful. What would you say was the most challenging part of putting this assortment of products together and making the space feel cohesive?
Honestly, there's too many options at market that are so awesome. So this is like a design board of like 1,000 things. And it was really, I think sometimes getting down to that curated pieces that make sense in a room. I wanted to show that even through a muted color palette, you can add in these awesome pops. That's something that I like. I care about the longevity of pieces you're putting in your home, like a stovetop oven. That's something that's gonna live there forever, and how that piece can evolve with the trends, especially when you go back to classic and timeless, it will always stand the test of time of all the trends that come in and out. So that's where we started on this one.
It's beautiful. It completely works. So thanks for sharing.
I love that you and David were like your own entourage in your space. And so I was going back and forth with a colleague about whether I should add someone sitting at the desk or on the day bed. And so I like that you guys are your own entourage in the space. It's pretty cool.
It's so fun.
If you could just put me in that chair that you have, though, that's where I really want to be.
I want that chair too, and that pendant that you have. It's so pretty. Yeah. Let's move on to the next room, Dawn, if you don't mind. Great. So we have Niall's media room. Tell us about this space and what you were thinking.
So for the media room, I really wanted a space. I love the arts. I love great movies. I really love music. I wanted a space where, you know, I was inspired by the quarantine. I wanted a space where you could just go and zone out and like just really be enveloped in really great music, have a glass of wine, just relax and have, whether it be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, where just nothing mattered and just everything was all right. And so this space is what I came up with. And I mean, I love a lot of upholstery. I love color. I love a dark and sort of moody feeling. And I also wanted this space to be something that you could use if you have, you know, friends over, hopefully soon. And so I really just started with green. Green came to mind. And then I shot off of that. I looked at pieces that were just interesting to me in shape, Nuevo, I think, has some really great organic pieces. Bernhardt as well. I loved some of the pieces from Nathan Anthony. And then I thought about how do I take that to the next level, just because some of these pieces already come married, we can reupholster them. And so who's got fabric that I'm loving right now? And that was, you know, Cravat. And then these graphic pieces on the wall from Wendover, I loved, and they just added a pop that really, for me, made it. The room feels sort of like traveled. It feels globally inspired, but also feels classic to me in some ways. I wanted a floor plan that could be moved around. I wanted something that felt like I wanted the room to feel like a big hug, as cliche as that may sound, but that's really what I wanted. I wanted anybody to walk into this room and feel comfortable using it. It's the way that I try to approach all of my interiors. I think it's one thing to have a room that's super pretty to look at, but it's another thing to have a room that you feel beautiful using as well. And that's really what I want people to be proud of using it as well as looking at it.
Well, you achieved it. I know you kind of follow this approach, like you appreciate luxurious items,
Yeah, like an
but it still feels
approachable
relaxed and
yeah.
livable, which is a hard balance to really find. So good job. That it looks really great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's move on to our next space. Albie, tell us about your outdoor area. And I know you love kind of, you know, these global inspired spaces, lots of texture, natural materials. So just break it down for us.
You nailed it. Well, I definitely, I was excited to do an outdoor space because we've all been inside. And so for many of us, who aren't able to do the things we normally would do, travel, go hang out with friends, beaches, parks, things like that, having an outdoor space, whether it's a small balcony or a large yard, has become an integral part of our well-being. And so I was really excited to kind of create this outdoor living space. And for me, I believe in comfort chic or hygge chic. So hygge is this Danish concept of finding bliss and happiness in all things. And I try to sneak that into every and anything that I'm designing in my own home, whether I'm doing it for a client, helping a friend. And for me, that comes to life through a layer of textures and neutrals. But I also like to have like kind of unexpected elements, whether it's a little bit of color or a little bit of glam. So I wanted the two spaces, even though in my mind it's this kind of L yard, I still wanted the spaces to feel like one, like an extension of any home. So whether you're walking out from the bedroom into the seating area, or you're walking out from the kitchen into an outdoor dining area. So I used a lot of pieces from vendors that I know do an amazing job at using natural elements in everything. So from the lighting to the rugs to the seating. And then I got a little bit creative. So I loved some of the pieces from Lloyd Flanders and from Arterios for the seating, but I wanted to play around with the fabrics. And this being virtual, it was a chance to reupholster the cushions and add a little bit more pattern and a little bit more texture. And so I used upholstery from Thibaut to really kind of make it, just step it up a little bit. So it didn't necessarily need to be this solid cushion. It could be something with a little bit more pizzazz to it. And then just that balance of neutrals. I didn't want it to feel too overwhelming because outside you have the flowers, the trees, nature's giving you all the colors that you need. So I just kind of layered a lot of the neutrals and then introduced curves and to kind of soften the space up. So it felt like, okay, it's okay if the kids play here, but I can also entertain my adult friends and have a good time with wine and whiskey as well.
And I like the settee, the sofa there. It looks like it's rattan, right? And even though it's black, it doesn't feel harsh.
Yeah, so
which
the
I think
frame is a black rattan, and then so it is upholstered in a black fabric from Thibaut. So I wanted this black on black, but that also didn't feel like this harsh, jarring experience because it is the soft curves, it's this natural material, and everything else around it would kind of balance it out and soften it out.
Great job. It looks beautiful. Dawn, let's move on to the next room. And then we have to talk about the nursery, right? Yep. Byron, give us a sense of what you were thinking with the nursery. It's so pretty. I love all the patterns here.
Thank you. So honestly, this was inspired by something that I actually did. It's not this exactly, but a friend of mine during COVID, you know, she's pregnant. She's like, look, I got to get my nursery together. Can you help me? I know there's a lot going on. Can you help me figure this out? And so we did. It was a small room. She sort of told me, I really would love this sort of black and white nursery because we don't know the sex of the baby and we just want to make the room kind of fun and neutral. And so we put, you know, we did like decals on the wall. You live in a rental, so we put decals on the wall so that something they could take down. We just threw a, you know, an area rug in. She does have a very similar crib. It has, you know, the lucite spindles on it. So, and I struggled in the beginning trying to decide like what color palette do I want to go? What, you know, how do I want this to feel? And I had taken like a couple of just photos on my phone of her nursery when it was done, because it did come out really cute and it was really great. And I posted it, you know, to my Instagram, and it got like so much feedback, like so much feedback. I'm thinking, this wasn't even a real product. Like, this wasn't even a real thing. And I took those on my phone.
I love when that happens though. I
said to myself, well, why don't I just take that and like make it an actual thing, like really take it to the next level. So that's where that came from. I do like the idea of a nursery not feeling babyish. Like it can be, you know, sophisticated to an extent, you know, so that it's something that, you know, your kids can grow into. And so that's sort of the thought behind this. So, you know, it's fun and it's playful and there's, you know, real art in it. And real furniture and like things that you can evolve and grow over time. So I also love playing, you know, the fact of having the smaller pattern, smaller graphic on the walls, and then the bigger boulder on the floor, and then also throwing in these, you know, pops of color with it, sort of giving those same sort of, you know, hard edge shapes, and just sort of playing with all those things together and making it this sort of like fun, you know, again, sophisticated sort of adult feeling, you know, experience, but in a nursery. So that's really how this came to be. It started from, you know, from something that was sort of real, and then, you know, decided to just take that like a step up and really make it even better.
It looks amazing. And I know you love working around this black and white color palette. Any tips for people at home who are interested in experimenting with this color scheme? Like, I know it's not always easy to pull off, and, you know, make sure that it's visually appealing. So what would you advise?
You're right. It's not for everyone. I've convinced a client who has a sort of a cabin to paint their whole mudroom black, and it definitely took some convincing in the beginning, but we're on the same page now. I think for first, you have to go in and not be afraid. You cannot be afraid, you know, be afraid of it, to just go for it. And then I'm a person, I really believe in layering. I like for things to evolve over time and, you know, and add on. So again, it's a neutral palette. So think of it like you would any other neutral. It's just dark. And then add on and layer in the same way that you would any other space.
And I think the pops of color, like with the artwork, for instance, really brings it to life. It looks great.
Thank you.
I also think about like just having to pull people away from some misconceptions, like you mentioned the black mud room. And so a lot of clients would say, oh, it's going to make the room feel so small. It's going to make it, and it's going to make that room pop out so much when you put that black on that wall. So just trust us. We got you, you know?
And I always say to people, like especially if it's in a small space, you know, and I want to paint it this, you know, I say, the room isn't going to get any smaller than it already is. So painting it dark won't actually make it smaller. It's already a small room, and that's it. It won't change that.
It looks really great. So I think we have Erica Taylor's living room, right?
Yes.
Great. This is the last space that we're gonna talk about. So tell us everything. What was your inspiration here? I love the pieces that you chose.
Thank you. So my inspiration actually was just like Bregan said that she loves Mikhail Welch, so do I. And his cradle chair for Yosemite, that was one of my favorite pieces, and I was like, I have to use it. And I just went from there. I loved the fact that there was so much shape going on, and a lot of the black and whites, neutrals that balance each other out, and then adding in the wood tones to warm up the space, and also adding in the pop of blue. I love blue to contrast with the black and white. But I really just wanted to create a fun, not necessarily fun, but more so an adult space, a kid-free space. And I also wanted it to lean more towards a masculine space. I didn't want it to be too feminine because I've always wanted to create for a bachelor. So this space definitely went in that direction that I wanted it to go in, with the Philip Jeffries wallpaper in the all black, the rivets. That's also one of my favorites. And that noir coffee table, the element, that is
so good.
Yeah. So once, you know, I pulled together all of the black and whites and then incorporated the pops of blue plus the warmer tones, I also added in these 3 pendants because I was like, just one chandelier, I didn't really like it. So then I said, let me try 3 pendants to really bring the space to life. And it turned out great. I love it.
And tell me about the mirror.
That's actually from 4 Hands, and that was like one of the last and final pieces that I added to finish off the fireplace because it just brought it all together. Yes, thank you.
And, you know, I was speaking to a designer the other day for a story, and she was saying that the living room has really become the heart of the home, just as much as the kitchen. Was that something you considered when you were pulling this look together?
Yes, I needed a space where, you know, someone could come in and unwind, kick their shoes off, pour a glass of wine. And this is the kind of space where you can just relax, but you could also entertain because there's additional seating, you know, with the chairs, the sofas, the stools by the fireplace. There's a bench by the window. So there's like, you know, there's a lot going on, but it all makes sense.
That's great. So now that we've seen all of the designs, I'm just curious to hear from everyone. If you actually had to design any of these spaces for a client, would you have changed anything? Would you change anything? I'll just put it out there to the group. Whoever wants to take it first, go for it.
I would say I definitely wouldn't, because it honors my preferred design style. And I did it with, you know, keeping in mind, yes, there are a lot of creative liberties I was able to take, but nothing about it is unattainable.
Yeah.
Again, the scale was still very much real. You know, the products are very much real. You know, everything about it could be brought to life for the right client. If chances are, if they're coming to me, they already know where I lean in terms of aesthetic. So there's nothing I would change. And I actually think I might end up doing some of it for myself.
Wow. I mean, why not? If it works, you should.
Yeah.
Can I answer?
I wanted to jump into your space, by the way, as is. So I totally see why you would say that. It was very all-encompassing, but inviting to anyone. I think for a kitchen space, I would want to adjust for a client. I think it's such a personal space that I want that to be a representation of them and who they are. So I'm always trying to pull out my creativity mixed with what I believe will make them happy. You know, black oven might be a statement that would make a homeowner feel a little bit uncomfortable in their zone. And that's totally fine. So for me, I'm always trying to infuse, especially in these main living spaces, what it is, you know, it's much like being a stylist. What's going to make you feel the best? I can work with anything and I love the challenge. It's about creating a home for you individually.
You're so right. It's a personal space. It really has to reflect that client's lifestyle. I agree with that. David, I think you wanted to say something.
Sure. Can we go back to John, the dining room? So a show house is an opportunity to go big. But the beauty about what we do and the vendors we work with, like Bernhardt, like the Howard Miller Mirror, like Tebow, is that they offer multiple finishes and colorways of everything you're seeing. So if this room, this tiger flocked wallpaper was too much in this particular color palette, there's a champagne version available. There's a pearlescent one that's a lot calmer. So we don't lose the textual element of it and the vibe, but it's not this in full Santi mode, as I like to call it. So I love the customization, capacity with a lot of the vendors that we use, that this could be, you can go all out. Let's have a fabulous room like this, but we can also tone it down and really personalize it to a client. So I would love to someone take a leap of faith and choose this for a dining room outside of myself. But the fact that we can take the fuchsia fixtures and make them, you know, a neutral color and amp it up even more or tone it down, that's the beauty of what we do as designers, is to use this as a footprint, and the possibilities are endless.
So true. And Niall, for the media room, if you were actually designing that space for a client, would you change anything at all?
Sure,
It's perfect as is, but I just want to hear your take.
No, sure. I agree with Regan. I think that I would want, and I enjoy, hearing from a client what it is that they want. I think it's important, and it's almost a game for me, because clients will say, I hate that sofa. And I'm like, is it the sofa or is it the color? And, they're like, oh, I never thought about that. Actually, you know what? It's the color. And I'm like, so you really like the sofa, you just don't like red. And so I would want to know specifics in terms of what it is that you want and how you use the space, because there's some clients that won't want to lounge and Netflix and chill or whatever, so how will you use this large space? How do you see yourself gathering in this space? And then how can I make that work for you? So absolutely, I always have my ideas and ideals, but ultimately, in order for me to eat, I have to do what works for them. So yeah, I'm down to change.
Smart answer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change gears a bit here. And, because the title of this session is The House That Diversity Built, I just want to get a sense of how your background, your culture really informs your work. Dawn, let's begin with you. Tell us, how you go about designing for clients, knowing that your heritage obviously informs your work.
I really try to pull myself out of it. I don't live there. I'm definitely going to be coming back to do the next phase of the project, but I really want it to be their desires and thinking about helping them live better at home. So I really try to pull my personal preferences and things like that out of the design, listening to what they need. And that's where I go. And so I really feel like people do reach out to me because they want a certain aesthetic. They want the textiles and wallpaper and drapery and everything. But once we get started with the process, it's really focused on them.
And it seems like you agree, Erica. Do you want to say some more?
Yes, I do. That would be a challenge for me to just kind of put my personal background, taste, and all of that into a client's design, because their wants, their needs, they vary so much. So like Ricardo said, like Don said, I just want my clients to be happy. I want them to feel how they're supposed to feel within that particular space. So I don't incorporate my personal background into spaces. It doesn't work because I have to design for the client. I had to learn that early on. I mean, even with certain little things that I remember doing for a particular client, and they changed something, and I was like, why would you do that? But it's not my space. So, you know, I have to understand that every time that I go into a new home with a new client.
I could appreciate that for sure. And I know, you know, design is such a visual business. So I'm just curious about where you all find inspiration. I mean, there's so much out there. I know, obviously, we're not traveling as much as we used to, but, you know, I'm just curious to hear where you're turning for creative inspiration. Byron, do you want to share?
Sorry. Sure. So lots of places. So, I mean, one, yeah, the typicals, like, you know, Pinterest or Instagram, you know, looking at other work and, you know, other images, you know, of course, shelter magazines and that whole thing. But then also, you know, I take inspiration sort of wherever I go. You know, even if I'm in a commercial space, you know, yes, I can't take this restaurant and what they did and put it into someone's home, but maybe there are certain elements. Like, I'll never forget, I once took a photo of for a towel bar from a retail store. I just love the way, you know, they did. I actually think it wasn't a towel bar. It was more like a handrail that they did. But I just love the detail in the way that it was shaped, and I thought that would work great in someone's home. So I try to take, you know, elements and things from, you know, wherever I go. Like you said, we're not traveling as much, so haven't been as many places as I normally would have, or have seen as many things as I normally would have. But I try to grab a piece of something, you know, wherever I go. Like I said, if it's a restaurant or a retail shop or whatever it is, there's something there that you can take away.
So true. And of course, I'm biased too. I know you mentioned magazines, but I just think they're a wealth of inspiration.
Absolutely.
So you're right about that. How about you, Albie? Where do you turn, you know, to feed your creativity, especially now?
So for me, again, like Byron said, really obviously the usual places, online, magazines, television shows. Being originally a New Yorker, I feel like I was exposed to a lot more. I used to walk to the Met and just kind of roam it on a random Saturday, walking through Central Park and just kind of seeing like the way the different clusters of rocks were formed. I felt like I had a little bit more access to things I was familiar with, but always looked different every time. Versus now living on the West Coast, I get lost on my way to Target. So I'm still figuring out the area here. But I think also for me, a lot of the times the inspiration has been coming from the stories. So I know you had asked, you know, where or what role our heritage may play.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people get so used to seeing the same over and over, they're hesitant to share their story. So sometimes I kind of force that out of them, maybe sharing a little bit of mine to kind of pull that out of them. So often, so the last large client project I did, she had a piece of artwork. Her family originally is from the Dominican Republic, and it was kind of off to the side somewhere because it was something she didn't know how to showcase. I was like, no, this needs to be front and center.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't realize it until she told me the significance of it to her grandmother and so on and so forth. So a lot of times it's just other people's stories. Even if I'm creating content on a large scale, it's looking at the comments of what people have been complaining about or whatever the case is, because it can't always just be about what I see and think is pretty. It's all subjective. So not being able to go out and see those things as much, I've been forced to listen more and then kind of draw inspiration from there.
That's awesome. And I can't wait to go back to the Met. It's one of my favorite places too. Breegan, I know you were inspired by a trip to Kenya. I want to hear all about that and, you know, how it really applies to the work that you're doing as a designer.
Well, I think we're all inspired by travel. Every designer I talk to is, and that's something that I am missing right now in life. But I've realized I can reach a lot of people now through things like this, using Zooms or the computer or the right hashtag. We are now able to see visual elements from across the globe by just sitting down at our computers. But I think it's always important, like you with your client from the Dominican Republic and that piece from our grandmother, that our space is a reflection of who we are. So when I show up for a client, really it's about the trust and about the confidence that I bring, being my full and complete self, and then how to teach you to do that visually. So the best client relationships I have are with the ones who go, I don't like that over there. I'm like, that's totally fine. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Like, I can arrange this 20 different ways. If the first 3 don't feel good to you, who cares how beautiful it is? Because beauty is so subjective, right? And what we do with our talent is to create environments and spaces that are intended to make you feel better about yourself. So I always show up myself, the beach girl, you know, I'm like, I don't, you know, I like certain things, but it's that confidence of me being myself that I'm trying to get my clients to mirror them being their most self, so that I can infuse that into their room. You know, these relationships, like we're opening up bedside drawers and going in shelves, and the actual process of being invited into somebody's home, I think can only really be sort of respected if you come in 100% yourself and confident and give them the space to do the same.
I agree that communication is so important to a successful project. So you're right about that. Dawn, I'm just curious about, you know, design trends. I think everybody, especially now that we're in the fall season, is curious about what professional designers are interested in. Are there specific interior design trends that you're loving at this time?
I think we're going to see a huge focus on sustainability. And then everybody is wanting to source locally. And for me, we love China, but we can't get anything right now. So,
Yeah.
so I'm just thinking
like
about,
flea markets and
so just sourcing things locally from places where they don't have to travel so far, sustainably harvested woods, things like that. And then I'm loving the mixed materials right now, stones with brass and wood, those things. Of course, jewel tones are still going to be here. So those are some of the things that I'm excited about seeing next week.
That's great. What about you, Byron? What are you looking forward to seeing, or any trends that you're especially excited about right now?
No trends in particular. I do think that going forward, considering everything that has happened, that this group of people, we're going to be used and utilized a lot more than we were before. Because as people stay home more, as this continues on, I think, you know, for a lot of companies and a lot of things, you know, it's like they're realizing that we can do things differently. And so I think now, you know, people will put more effort and time into their spaces. And I think that we will be utilized a lot more than we have been even before.
I agree.
We have to figure out a way to make it accessible for everyone. You know, people who have all, you know, budgets and that sort of thing, and figure out a way so that we can, you know, go into all types of homes.
It's so true.
That I'm very interested in right now.
And Erica, going off of what Byron just mentioned, obviously home is important for people at this time. How has your business been impacted by the pandemic, and what are your clients asking for right now? I'm so curious. You're on mute still. Yep.
Sorry, my kids are in the background.
I can sympathize with you.
In the beginning, things were really slow for me. So when things started to pick up, it was, you know, trying to figure out how do we make these spaces work because everyone is home. Even now, a potential client, there's a father who's redoing his daughter's rooms, and he wants to, they're teenagers, but they have school that they're virtual learning, and he wants to incorporate, you know, a nice desk and chair area, you know, with boards and things so that they can have a good space to actually work in. So it's definitely, I agree with Byron, like we're going to be utilized more just for making a home function the way that it should while everyone is still there on a regular basis.
Can I just say, it has just been really awesome seeing how busy like everybody has been, all of my colleagues, because I remember when this first came on, there were talks about what are we going to do, and it's going to be like 2008, and nobody was getting any calls. And I think for me, I was trying to figure out, okay, so what avenue am I going to take to still bring in business? And so it was like that for me for like 2 weeks. And then I was like, okay, I got to contract these projects out because they have just been coming and coming. And that has been the story for so many other designers that I'm in contact with. And so it has just really been awesome because we didn't know what was going to happen at first. And now we're all super busy. And then we're having to do all this virtual stuff for market and all these people reaching out. And so it has just been awesome just seeing how busy everybody has become, not knowing what was going to happen in the beginning. So
I'm happy for you. I'm definitely happy for you. And let's, I know we have 10 minutes left. I'll just mention that if anyone has questions, you can drop them in the chat area and we'll try to answer them as we wrap up. But I thought I'd just conclude or wind down by asking everyone about your thoughts about the importance of diversity in the design business right now. I mean, obviously we know that it's good for business. Why shouldn't a design firm reflect the country that we live in, the people who live in it? So I'd love to hear a bit more about what you guys think about that. David, do you want to take that question? What's your take on the importance of diversity in the design world?
I think it's vital. You know, I've been fortunate enough that I grew up in Teaneck, New Jersey, and I grew up in a multicultural, diverse neighborhood. And you know, I was talking to a colleague of ours that we all know, Patty Carpenter, and I said, you know, Patty, I remember growing up in United Colors of Benetton, and it's been woven into the fabric of my philosophy of life. And I come from a Spanish background, you know, Spain, Puerto Rico, and I pride myself in being able to relate to cultures outside of my own lane and really open to that conversation. And you know, this country is an extraordinary opportunity for us to be able to do what we're doing here today. And it's not always right, but not always wrong. And I think we have to find the commonality to be able to have a conversation. And what I'm hearing today is that we've all come together here for the love of design. Design here unifies us. Unity is a strength. And if we can figure out how to make a living on it and how to have harmony in industry that should have more lanes open and be open to the United Colors of Benetton, because design is multifaceted, multicolored, multiple elements of this wonderful university and fabric of life. So I've been in this business, I'm going to date myself here, but over 20 years. I've come from many different walks and different levels in my career. The one thing that I did always do is, as mentioned previously, I was always true to myself. I walked the talk. When I walked into my clients and prospective projects, I laid it out, and I was always true and relevant, and most important, relatable to my clients and their needs. And it's been a continuous turn of success with repeat business from seeds I planted way beyond in my early years that are still resurfacing, regrowing, and sprouting new energy and life and work and design into my success. So I hope I answered that in the most honest way I could to my heart, because I truly walk the talk, and I love this. I love celebrating all of this talent that we have here and relating to all the projects in however way And that to me unifies us and what our purpose here today. And
Great, thanks for sharing. I'm glad that your hard work paid off and that you value diversity. It's important.
absolutely.
I'm going to give everyone else a chance to say some final words. We have 5 minutes left, but Don, do you want to wrap up and just share your thoughts on why we need diversity? I mean, it's not easy being a Black designer today. I could relate being, you know, a Black editor in this field. Sometimes I feel like we have to work 10 times as hard as our white counterparts. So I'm just curious to hear your take.
I would just say that it's important that value be placed on the perspectives of designers of color and minority designers. And we need to do this in a way that is genuine. I would love to see this continue as the house that amazing designers built and not diversity, you know? I would love if we were just offered a seat at the table and not given our own table, you know? And so I just think it's super important that we continue to just keep this value going, not just because it is the thing to do right now, not just because of what's going on socially, but really because it is something that should be done. And also, I'm gonna switch back, but Erica, your space, I want that. So don't copyright it. Send it to me because I think that, I mean, I'm still looking at it. So that's me.
Thank you, Don.
Erica, do you want to share as you're on now, as we wrap up? We just have a couple minutes left. Any final thoughts about diversity in the design world, your experience as a Black designer, challenges? What do you want people to know?
No, I agree with Don. Like, we definitely need to be invited to the table. And I think it starts, you know, on a lower level. Like, when I went back to school, I noticed then there weren't very many, you know, Black students. Well, actually, I was the only Black student in my program when I went to school. And that was for a while before there were other Black students who came into the program. Some of them stayed, some of them didn't. But I also didn't have any Black instructors. So I think, you know, on a college level, maybe even on a high school level, if there are programs within a high school, we need to have more of us represented, because the representation definitely matters. If there are students who see us more often, then they'll want to pursue this career, then we'll have more of us in other areas where we need to be. But we definitely need to be invited to the table. We shouldn't always have to build our own. We definitely need to be included more often.
It's so true. Sometimes those students don't think about, you know, interior design. They think about more traditional careers like nursing, medicine, you know, law. So I agree with that. Quickly, Breegan, final thoughts as we wrap up.
I really love that the nature of interiors and bringing things together is a way to visually put together a global story that has multiple layers, and who made them, who sourced them, and also the story of the designer behind them. I think all of those points are a way that we are uniquely positioned to highlight an array of cultures. And so I really think that's our challenge as an industry, is just to make different and diverse a beautiful conversation topic that's empowering and not dividing. And I really appreciate this panel today and all of the efforts that are made. I think the arts are always a great place to start when we're not seeing ourselves enough. And so, you know, we have a lot of power, both in our purchasing dollars as designers, but also examples to the staffs that we all hold. So thank you for having us.
Of course, I agree. And Niall, do you want to quickly share some final thoughts? Breegan just said that, you know, being a Black designer is an important position right now. So tell us your take quickly as we wrap up.
I agree. You know, I think that I actually agree with what everyone said. I think that it's important to take the position and to do the absolute best that you can. Be a force for beauty, be a force for change, be the light, and let people know that, you know, we do have something to contribute, and let's have the conversation and be open to that. I don't know anything other than being open to diverse point of views. And so if I walk that, then hopefully I can be a mirror for somebody else to do the same. And that's what I would want others to do as well.
I agree. And Byron, final thoughts?
Really quick, it looks like there was a question in the chat, so I didn't want it to get.
Oh, great. Let's see
quickly.
Someone said, is there merit to reevaluating the definition of good design being Eurocentric? How can that be incorporated into design education? If anyone wants to take that, because we're out of time.
Sure, really quickly. I think one of the main things we have to do as a society, as an industry, is to assume that everyone deserves to be where they are and not certain people because of what they do or how they look. Like, everyone deserves to be here. There are all types of design elements. There are all types of aesthetics. And so certain things are for certain people. Someone who may be really famous, maybe someone else doesn't like their style of work at all. So we have to assume that everyone deserves to be here no matter what it is. And so there isn't a particular style. There isn't just one American style. There isn't just one way of doing things here. We are a very diverse country and we are a very diverse industry. And so everyone's perspective and everyone's aesthetic should be welcomed and celebrated.
So true. There's space for everyone. Albie, do you want to say any final words? Because we're just about out of time here, and then we'll close out.
I think everyone said it, but just to the point which kind of echoes what Erica said, and to the question in terms of design education, I know learning, I never actually heard the term Eurocentric, but I think as, you know, these syllabi are created, if we see more diverse professors and just to that question, if from the onset, from that foundation, if it's more inclusive, I think words like that can be done away with. To Don's, you know, point, it won't need to be about what diversity built. It's just, oh, we collected 10 amazing designers. And I think that kind of starts at that base level. I was in a similar program where I was the only Black female. There were other minorities, but they were predominantly male. And so I think it does start at that education level. And that's, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, I guess. But I think as the conversations start to happen more often, hopefully those decision makers start to reevaluate things like syllabi and staffing and so on and so forth.
Well, thank you.
Monique, can I say something? I loving all of this. And I would love to carry on a conversation with all of my colleagues here via email. If we can work together and change and make things better from a Zoom like today and think forward together and design it forward, as I like to say, I'm here, I'm your wingman, I'm all yours. I'd love to talk to you and collaborate with you in any way because I'm no better than anyone here. And, you know, no man, no woman stands alone. We need to work together to keep this conversation going and not end today after the Zoom is over. Because if we don't feed it and it won't change, it has to, you know, we are better together. And Byron said, you know, all of us have a voice, all of us have purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for extending that invitation. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Don, for jumping in at the last minute to show us that presentation. I appreciate all of your comments. This was such an engaging discussion. And I believe a recording of this is going to be up online. But again, thank you. Can't wait to keep in touch with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Nice meeting you all.
Nice meeting you.